Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. My name is Cassie Brunsfeld, and I am the program assistant at AgScape. And today we have Rachel Oak going to be leading a professional development for us. So just a few housekeeping things. Keep your microphone on mute, please. And your video as well, if that will help with your internet to make that work a little bit better. If you have any questions as we're going through the presentation, feel free to pop that in the chat box as well, and we will get started. I will pass it over to Rachel.
Great, thanks, Cassie. I will just go ahead and just open up my presentation right away and just get this going here. Okay, so thank you for joining us. So we're going to be talking today about fibers and fabric and what that has to do with agriculture. Our learning goals: we'll identify where fibers and fabrics come from. We'll understand why is it important to know what our clothing is made out of, and we'll analyze the environmental impact of the clothing industry. So just to let you know a little bit about me, my teachables are family studies as well as English. So I have a lot of opportunity to learn about fibers and fabrics with the family studies background. I studied business marketing at Fanshawe College before going to Teachers College. And I have here that I'm the former high school weird girl who made her own clothing. So I think we probably all knew that person. So that kind of sums up my experience with fabric and with things like that. In my spare time, I like to crochet as well as sew. So just as Cassie already mentioned, if we just keep our microphones off or on mute, sorry, that will help. You can ask any questions that you do have in the chat function, or if you wanted to use your mic and ask a question at the end, that's absolutely fine too. We have this little symbol on these slides just to give you a heads up about, when it's time to participate. And this session will be recorded as well, so you can have access to it and view it later. Okay, so just to let you know a little bit about AgScape, our vision is a world where the agri-food sector is recognized as a vehicle for positive social, economic, and environmental impact. And our mission: we empower Ontario's students with impartial and accurate information to increase awareness of the agri-food system and ignite interest in related careers. So first off, why is it important to know what fabric or fibers were used to make your clothing? I assume that if you're going to, attend a webinar about it, that it might be important to you already. So why is it important for you to know that? Where you're, okay, so how to care for your clothing. That's a good point, Justine. Potential skin irritations or allergies. Totally agree, Sarah, because I have eczema like crazy. So I definitely, the environmental impact of your purchase. Okay, yes, environmental impact, also morality. Slave labor, what kind of labors being used or going into it for sure. Okay, so best use for end product. Were the fabrics sustainably or ethically sourced? Okay, so I'm going to continue. If you still have things to put into the chat, by all means, and I'll check back as we go. But yeah, definitely, most of the time, a lot of us do care about where our fabric comes from, how is it sourced, is it sustainable, is it ethical, all of those important things that we might not always be thinking about while we're shopping, but I think more and more people are thinking about those things, right? And we want to make sure that we have reliable information to answer those questions that we might have when we're shopping and when we're making clothing decisions. Okay, so generally speaking, we can usually divide fabrics or fibers into two different categories. We would usually say natural and synthetic. So natural fibers would come from plant and animal sources. Synthetic fibers are made by humans. And then there's some fabrics that are sort of in between that people aren't sure about, but we can always talk about those as well. Okay, so let's name these natural fibers then. And this can be like a fun thing that you can do with your students as well. So we're talking about natural fibers. Who recognizes which each of these ones are? Oh, darn it, I just showed you. Okay, sorry about that. I meant to hit the chat so that I could see everybody, but instead I just pulled up the so I just pulled up the answers for us. Sorry about that. But we have our, wool, cotton. I've got bamboo actually for C, hemp, silk, suede, and leather. We'll do this again for We'll do this one again for synthetic, but this time I'll try not to show the answers. But again, if you're talking about it in the classroom, like this can be a fun way to, introduce your students to where their fabrics are coming from. Okay, and then what about this one? I have 4 synthetic fabrics here. Does anyone want to take a guess as to which each one is? Starting with A. Okay, so a guess was elastic. And we do use that a lot in our clothing as well. I've got polyester as a guess, yeah. Oh yes, D is microfiber. Yeah, that one's recognizable. So I have A is nylon, and again, it might not always look like that when we buy it, right? But from what it's made out of. So we have nylon, spandex, polyester, or at least it's made from plastic, and then D is microfiber. And so microfiber is one of those things that if you wear glasses can be hard to live without. Yeah, generally speaking, these are just examples of some synthetic fabrics or fibers. We have all kinds, right? All kinds that we probably use every day. So we'll just move on then, speaking about different types of fabrics and different type of fibers and things like that. Hold on just a second. I'm having a bit of trouble with these slides. There we go. So I have a true or false question. Is wool cruel to sheep? Would we say that's true or false? Okay, so yeah, so we have a lot of falses here. And that's a good sign because it is. However, some campaigns were started a few years ago, but we can talk about that in a minute as well. Unfortunately, there have always been individuals who do mistreat animals. However, wool farmers in Canada, Australia, and many other countries around the world are expected to uphold standards for the ethical treatment of animals. Years ago in 2014, a campaign was started by a certain group who they had a campaign basically saying that wool was cruel, and they had like a dead sheep in the commercial, and then later the group admitted that it was a prop. However, it's something that was shared a lot on the internet, right? And people did believe it to be a real animal. So it did cause a lot of consequences. The process of sheep shearing, though, it does not hurt the animal when done correctly, right? We wouldn't just want any old person going in there with going in there to shear if they didn't know what they were doing, but for experienced shearers who know what they're doing and know how to handle that, know how to handle animals, then no, it wouldn't cause them any harm. However, excess wool can predispose sheep to parasites and infections. That's from the American Society of Animal Science. However, darn it, I just made this chat super big. Okay, however, if you are concerned about it, you can always look for the ZQ Merino standard or responsible wool standard on the label or the brand's website. And then, of course, research the standards of care for the country that the wool comes from. So, for instance, the care of sheep as well as other animals is regulated by the National Farm Animal Care Council in Canada, which upholds the highest standards for animal care worldwide. Now, I do say just research where your wool is coming from. Even like wool in Canadian wool is a really excellent product, but we export like so much of it. We export so much more than we keep. So oftentimes in Canada, we know that our clothes could be coming from many different places around the world. So I would just suggest, if it is something you're concerned about, I used wool for the example in this one, but down is like another example, right? You just research where it's coming from and what methods they're using if it is a concern that you do have. So let's make some classroom connections. So I gave the example of the campaign that was started with the false sheep that was said to be real, and the consequences that created, or the people who believed it to be a real sheep. So some classroom connections. We can use stories like this in opinion or persuasive writing, right? Generally speaking, in your classroom, like you're going to have students that probably have differing opinions, right? And so it can be a really good exercise for opinion writing or for persuasive writing, especially a lot of young people, care a lot about animals, and that's a really good thing. And we want to encourage that. So it can just be a really good, something that they're very passionate about, right? To get them interested in opinion or persuasive writing. It's also a great lesson for using reliable sources, right? Looking for reliable information on the internet. It's a good lesson for using social media responsibly as well, because again, lots of times people share things and might not necessarily know where it's coming from or if the source is reliable. A really good connection for laws and ethics as well, right? Just what is legal in certain places in the world, or what is deemed ethical, or just because it's legal doesn't make it ethical. Also, it's really good connection for understanding both sides of a debate as well. So sometimes when I give AgScape lessons and students find out that people wear fur, or that certain like leather, for example, comes from cows, right? Some students and even some teachers get very upset about that. But then there's always a student that says, well, if you eat beef, why wouldn't you wear leather, right? And so understanding sort of both sides of those debates. And again, we're all going to have our own opinion on the matter, and our job as educators, it's not to give them that opinion, but to understand both sides of the debate, right? As well as these other classroom connections as well. And also, I think a really good point to bring up if we're talking about these things in the classroom is cultural connections as well, because, in some cultures, wearing certain fabrics or using certain parts of animals for different things is very important, right? And whereas there's many people, in Canada who might eat meat but not wear animals, or might do one thing but not another, right? So just sort of it's a good opportunity to sort of understand those cultural connections as well. And oftentimes when I give AgScape lessons, if it's about different things that we eat across Canada, or if it has anything to do with animal husbandry, I do often tell kids, we all come from different backgrounds, and it's completely encouraged that we do form our own opinions, but it's also important that we can be respectful of one another and that we can make sure that we're using reliable sources to inform those opinions. And again, more information about animal husbandry is in AgScape's animal health and welfare AgScape presentation. Okay. So let's talk about why this information is important. And many of you already touched on this, right? We wear clothes every day, so obviously it's important to us. Many of us shop for clothing recreationally as well, right? Clothing affects our budgets, our skin, our daily lives, our consciences, and our environment as well. So it's definitely something that impacts us on so many different levels. But, you know, a lot of our students and a lot of young people might be just sort of shopping recreationally or not really thinking about it. Again, why is it important? Well, when we're shopping for clothes, or especially, you know, younger people, our students who might be on a specific budget or might be interested in certain types of looks, synthetic fabrics are usually less expensive than natural, but they're also usually poorer quality, meaning we end up spending more money replacing them. So again, you know, buying that $5 t-shirt that is so see-through, you have to buy something else to wear underneath it, or buy and, you know, you're not really going to wear it because the fabric's poor quality. Constantly replacing it might just end up being more money in the long run. Certain fabrics, usually synthetic, irritate skin conditions like eczema. And again, while synthetic fabrics are usually cheaper, you're not really saving money buying clothes that you'll never wear. Now, some people find that wool is uncomfortable if they have eczema. I don't find that. I find things like polyester and things like that are more of a culprit for me. But again, that's up to you. And I wanted to bring up that the same is true for yarn or fabric bought for clothing projects. You know, if you're teaching a fashion course or if you have students learning how to sew, it's a really great idea for them to be practicing with scraps or, you know, old clothing that they're not using anymore, rather than fabrics or yarns that, like, buying fabric or yarn just because it's cheap that you're not really going to wear. I've got this little t-shirt in the corner here. The buying yarn and using it are two different hobbies. I find that true for me anyways. But yeah, just knowing where the fabric, whether you're buying clothes already made or whether you're making a project with it, it's important to know what it's made out of, where it comes from, especially now with the pandemic that we're not really able to go and try clothing on. It's even more important because then at least when we are shopping online, we can find out, okay, what is this actually made out of, right? Because it can be tricky to tell just from looking at a photo on a website. So I'll just talk about fast fashion and in recreational shopping. So fast fashion refers to stores or brands that are constantly producing new articles of clothing, usually using cheap labor and low quality materials. And then shopping for clothes as a hobby often leads to overspending. When our closets are cluttered, we often forget what we have already purchased or where we put it. And then we end up repurchasing the same thing, right? I can't find that one specific brown pair of shoes I bought. Where are they? Oh, well, I'll just spend the $20 and get another one, right? Like that sort of problem. What other kinds of problems do we think maybe like this fast fashion or recreational shopping leads to? What problems end up coming out of like fast fashion, where we've got those really high turnovers on, like, they're constantly trying to just bring in new products, selling new products really quickly. Oh yeah, negative environmental impacts, more clothing in landfills. and yeah, landfills being full of clothes. Exactly. So it's really bad for the environment. I don't know why this slide is, okay, there we go. So here's another true or false then. Natural fibers are always better for the environment because they're more sustainable. What do we think about that one? Natural fibers are always better for the environment because they are more sustainable. Okay, I've got it. Okay, so it's hard to trick teachers with true false questions because they look for words like always and never. So yes, exactly. So it is false. While many natural fibers are renewable and more sustainable, cotton, for example, requires large amounts of water and which can lead to soil erosion. To reduce water consumption, fibers across the world try to use best management practices, such as using precision irrigated fields, relying on the rain to grow the crop, and precision fertilizer use. That way it prevents, runoff from happening, especially since cotton requires so much water. We don't want fertilizer or pesticides running off into the water. Through management practices, the average world cotton yield reached 780 kilograms of lint per hectare in 2013/14. That's about 2.5, a hectare is about 2.5 acres, if that helps you, which is up from 230 kilograms of lint per hectare in the 1950s, with projections of worldwide production to reach to 30 million tons by 2029. And again, when we think about cotton, it's a real fan favorite for most people, right? It's very comfortable in all seasons. We use it in our denim. We use it in most of our casual clothes. It's very like skin friendly for people with sensitive skin or issues like eczema and things like that. And I can share a website with you at the end, but the World Wildlife Federation, for example, their website has a lot of really great information on the environmental impact of cotton, not only how much water, et cetera, is used to create it, but the environmental impact that goes into the amount of clothing that we buy, the amount of clothing that we get rid of, and not to mention the care for it as well, right? The amount of energy that we're using when we wash and dry our clothes and things like that. So I can share that website with you just because they've got a lot of really great photos and videos if it's something that share with your students. And then so most of you had said, well, I'm pretty sure synthetic fibers are usually worse, and it's true, they are usually worse for the environment. However, it is possible to use recycled materials such as plastics to create clothing. Sometimes when you're shopping, you might be able to find things that have been made out of recycled or repurposed polyester or other and cotton as well, right? So when you're shopping, sometimes it's you're able to find, like, it'll say eco-friendly, or it will say that it's recycled or repurposed. Polyester or cotton seem to be the two big ones that they like to recycle, but I'm sure you could probably find other fabrics as well. So for textile waste, basically, when we buy clothes and we decide just to throw them out, we can call that textile waste. So how many pounds of textiles, right, clothing, things like that, do you think the average Canadian throws away annually? How many pounds do you think of clothing or textiles? If you had to guess, just average person in Canada, how much clothing or things made out of fabric do you think that the average person would just throw away? Okay, got I've got, okay, 5, 50, 20, lots of guesses. Couple guesses for 20 pounds. Got a guess for 15. Anyone else want to throw in a guess before we? Okay, over 50, lots. Should have put specific. So here, yeah, so it's actually 81 pounds. The average Canadian person throws out 81 pounds. That's how much I weighed when I was 11. So, you know, if that puts it into perspective for you, and it might, even if it doesn't seem like that much for one person to be throwing away 81 pounds of clothing and other textiles, 10 million tons going to a landfill every year. And there, I got this from the Recycling Council of Ontario. They're saying that 95% of the stuff that ends up getting tossed could end up being reused or recycled rather than just throwing it out. So reused meaning like, you know, given as a hand-me-down, donated, recycled. I know that there's certain recycling programs where they'll take your old clothes and repurpose it into something else, or even doing it yourself, right? Repairs on your clothing, right? So garment. And again, this is also from Recycling Council of Ontario, but they say we're not just throwing away the garment, we're wasting the resources that went into producing it. So all of the energy, we're not going to, you know, if we're not going to buy something that ends up being, oh, am I frozen for anyone else? Oops, sorry. Okay, sorry about that. Hold on, just 1 second here. I just a small message saying about it. So sorry, I just got to go back into my. Sorry. Okay. Let's see. The little freezing thing here. I'm just getting a message about my internet connection, and now my slides are being okay. Here we go. Yeah, so learning how to determine the quality of clothing means we're going to be less likely to throw it out if we know the quality of what we're buying, right? If that we're going to be able to get a lot of usage out of it. And again, even if you're learning how to do things like repairs, or you plan on, you know, donating it after, if it's a really poor quality item, it's not a matter of just fixing the seams on something or sewing a button back on, right? If the fabric's poor quality, it's going to pill, or it will be, you know, a little bit more see-through than you'd like it to be, that kind of thing. Knowing about fabrics and care before buying clothes, right? Because again, if you buy something and you don't understand those laundry care symbols, and it's easy for the, you know, to ruin it in the wash, or to buy something that can only be dry cleaned. And then again, you're buying something you're not really going to wear. It's just going to lead you to buy more. I've said this too, like making small repairs, like hemming pants, sewing buttons instead of replacing the entire garment, can really help with textile waste. And those small repairs are something that, you know, even our students can learn as well, right? Because a lot of them are really simple. Reduce the stigma of wearing secondhand clothing. You know, I know for a lot of families that's not a problem. For some people it is, but passing the clothing on either to somebody in your own home or, donating it to a thrift store, or even if you can find a facility that does recycle the garments. And of course, buying garments from recycled materials can help as well, right? Rather than buying something new every single time. Okay, so I'll just spend some time then just talking about AgScape and the virtual teacher ambassador program. I mentioned that a little bit in my webinar. But our teacher ambassador program, this year we're doing it virtually because of the pandemic, but AgScape's teacher ambassadors are Ontario certified teachers. There are 12 topics for grades 7 to 12 teachers to choose from, included our featured careers lesson. So today I mentioned the animal health and welfare one, but there are lots of other topics as well. All lessons are aligned with the Ontario curriculum and encourage students to think critically about food and agriculture topics. They're fact-based and offered a balanced perspective, allowing students to make their own decisions and become informed, empowered, food literate consumers. And the program can be booked an unlimited amount of times. I find oftentimes when a teacher books me to do it, the students are always very excited if I come back again. They tend to like having the same person come back. I guess they just know what to expect by that time. They get to know the teacher ambassador, but I do find that students really do enjoy that. And then if you wanted to book the program, I've got the website here. Cassie's here as well. The virtual delivery, which include careers, food, local food, food security, climate change, biotechnology, organic and conventional agriculture, business and economics of food, food safety, environmental initiatives, agriculture in Canada, animal health and welfare, technology and innovation.
Oh, we lost you there for a minute, Rachel.
A little bit of trouble here with just with the internet connection today. Cassie, did you? I'll continue, but if we lose me, if at this point, if we lose me, if we could maybe direct any questions that we might have about the Teacher Ambassador program or Business of Food to Cassie, just in case. So again, I apologize. I apologize for the connectivity issue I'm having. I'm not sure what's causing that. But again, topics covered in our courses: local food, food security, food safety, business and economics of food, climate change and environmental initiatives, careers in agri-food, conventional and organic agriculture, animal health and welfare, agriculture in Canada, biotechnology, and technology and innovation. Each course is a total of 40 to 50 hours. There's scholarship opportunities available to make the course free to take. Learners will receive a certificate of completion that can be added to their teacher portfolio. And again, there's the link to you can ask Cassie for it as well. I've got our upcoming dates. So spring, summer, and fall for the business for both courses. And then, we also have our thing competition. Let's see here. So AgScape's career competitions are an excellent opportunity to help students make real-world connections and learn about future career pathways in the agri-food sector. Students rotate between different stations where they will meet agri-food industry representatives and participate in interactive activities that test their overall employability and general agri-food knowledge. Partners include Grain Farmers of Ontario, Trillium Mutual, Ontario Federation of Agriculture, Ontario Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs, University of Guelph, as well as the Great Lakes Grain, and much more. We'll think Ag career competitions. Our AgScape's career competitions are also available through virtual delivery using Zoom. Partners tune in virtually and deliver engaging and fun online activities through several breakout rooms. Students use their personal or school devices, which allow students who are at home to participate. And again, we have the link for that one. And then resources. So if you go to AgScape's website, we offer a free digital resource library containing over 100 lesson plans and resources that are curriculum aligned to multiple subject areas and grades. Within our digital resource library, you will also find resources developed from our provincial partners from across Canada. Our Growing Careers YouTube channel contains over 75 unique video profiles of people who work in the agri-food sector and over 20 recorded food and farm tours. AgScape, in partnership with Farm Food Care Ontario, are running virtual food and farm tours for the rest of the, I think that was probably saying school year. So the first one would be April 27th. Join us for this tour where you'll meet AgScape's very own program assistant, teacher, and third generation farmer, Cassie Brunsfeld. Cassie currently operates a 140 plus organic dairy cattle farm with her husband in the Cambridge region. This event is ideal for all grades. And again, we have Cassie here today. So if you have any questions about that, she's probably the expert to ask. And then June 15th at 10:30, join us for this tour where you will meet Ryan Cullen, who is the field supervisor at the W. Galen Weston Center for Food, where he manages a team of students and a number of urban farm production systems at Durham College Whitby campus. And then you can register for those events. Do you have any questions either for me about the webinar today or for Cassie about AgScape's other opportunities that we mentioned here today?
Hi, Justine. I see your message here. I will see if I can share my screen without some technical difficulties here so that you guys can see that portion of it. So just give me 1 second here. I know, internet problems. Oh, goodness. So I'm going to share my screen. All righty. You guys should be able to see that now. So this is our website here. So if we go down to the events, and you can see that we have, keep scrolling, so our virtual food and farm tours, so the last ones posted on that page. If you click on Learn More, this is where we post them. So we have the one that I am hosting on the 27th of April, and then we have the one on June 15th with Ryan Cullen. As we have more, you'll be able to see that on that events page as well. Alrighty, if anyone has any other questions for either Rachel and I, let us know.
I see that Victoria had posted a question before about, with household items, is it true that things are made not to last to ensure as consumers we will still buy and is clothing the same way? That's an excellent question. Often I hear that, and I'm sure we all hear from like our parents or older generations, like, oh, they sure don't make things like they used to. Is it proven that they do it on purpose so that we have to buy a new one? I'm not sure that we would have any proof for that, but it does really seem that way. And whether it's, are things not made as well so that we have to buy it again, or do we often look for things that are cheaper because we say to ourselves, well, this style is just going to go out in 2 years, so I'm just going to buy the cheaper version? Because does that kind of make sense? I think it's a two-way street. I think in some cases, not a lot of the same investment is made into our clothing because people are just going to buy it in, another year or another season or whatever. But I think often we make those choices as consumers with clothing because we think, oh, this is just going to go out of style. So I may as well just, I don't really care if I buy the cheap one, right? So I think it works both ways, if that answers your question. And I don't see, does anyone else have any questions either for me or for Cassie? Yes, excellent point, Susan, right? Especially for students who have who might have a limited budget of how much they can spend on their clothes, and also their bodies are still changing, right? So what fits them this year might not fit them next year, right? So they might be thinking, oh, I don't want to invest so much in something that may not fit me next year or in 2 years from now, or again, the style, or they might be thinking that it's better to have, you know, lots of things to sort of try to fit in or try to stay in style, right? With the limited budget that they might have. Cassie, I think that question's more for you about finding out more about the business of.
Yeah, business of food. So I will share my screen again, and I will show you how to find our business of food information here. All right, so you should be able to see that now. So I'm at the AgScape website again. So if we click on menu, sorry, my mouse is doing crazy things. This here, okay. So we will go to our menu here and then the business of food. So this contains all of the information. We have 2 different courses right now. So we have Business of Food 101 and Business of Food 102. So if you click there, it'll tell you a brief overview of what each one is going to talk about, who's facilitating it, what information is going to be in the module, just any FAQs that you might have. And then down here, we have our sessions for 2021. So we do have our two open sessions here for spring. And then once those are complete, we'll open up for summer, fall, winter, etc. If you have any specific questions after reading through that information, down here we have our colleague Shauna. Her email is down here, and she is the one who heads up the business of food portion of what we do. So you can ask her any more specific questions that you might have. Does anyone else have any other questions for Rachel or myself? I know Rachel's screen cut out there for a little bit. The cost of the courses, let me go back here. We have a few different ways that it is set up. Just for individuals and businesses and that sort of thing. So just let me go back here. So for your educators and teacher candidates, it is under, I believe how we had it before was under like a scholarship program. So when you email Shauna, you can double check about those things with her. And then we have a section for the post-secondary institutions and then for businesses as well. I see one for you, Rachel. Is there any other fabric information offered or on our website?
1 second. Hold on. Let me just see. The only other, normally AgScape focuses on food and agri-food. Through the Teacher Ambassador Program, there is the Animal Health and Welfare presentation, and that touches a little bit on animal health, just sort of means things that animals might be used, right? So that can be that would have that connection to fabric. I did mention that I would a website that I used on all that information about cotton, just because they have a lot of really great I'll just share this website here just because they have a lot of really great videos and photos and information about cotton. So I'll just share that there. And so that's a website that I used for a lot of like environmental information, and there's things on there that you can share with your students as well. But yeah, at this time with AgScape, there's the teacher ambassador lesson with animal health and welfare. But other than that, it's usually more focused on the agri-food business. Did anyone else have any questions before we go? And again, I apologize for the wonky internet connection today. And thank you all for coming today. That's excellent.
Just to echo Rachel, thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. If you have any further questions, feel free to pop us an email. You can find our emails on the AgScape website there, and we would be happy to help you. And we wish you all a wonderful rest of your spring break. Enjoy it.